Okay, we are doing good now. We are halfway through. Now it's time to talk about our browser. We were working on the file manager. I want to go ahead and open up my browser. Now you remember at the beginning of this, hopefully you remember that we set up a key sequence so we can load the browser at any time, and that is Control Alt and Z. So all I have to do is hit those three buttons at the same time, and up pops my browser. Now my browser comes up, you'll notice it's not full screen, and I want it to be full screen. So a quick challenge to you, how do I make it full screen? We learned this earlier. What's the key command? F11 pops it up full screen. So now I'm totally focused on my browser. And again, if I don't want that, I can click it back out. It's totally up to you. There's a number of things that we can do in the browser to help out, and I'm not going to maximize it right now because I want you to see some of the stuff that's happening as I'm working. If it's full screen, you may not notice everything that's going on behind it. The first thing we want to do is, how do we open up a new browser? Well, when we were in File Manager, how do we open up a new File Manager? And very similar, if I hit Control and N, you'll notice that a new browser comes up. Now again, because it looks exactly like the browser I was on, that's why I didn't want to maximize, is I wanted you to see there's actually two browser windows here. So Control N will pull up a new browser. A lot of people too often want to pull up incognito. More and more people wanting VPN and stuff. They don't want their information to be traced on the internet, etc. Incognito is one way where it doesn't record your browser history. There's still a recording of what you're doing, so don't be fooled by that. But at least locally on your drive, it's not showing your kids what you bought them for holidays or Christmas or whatever the case may be. So how do I pull up a incognito window? And the answer is where we did Control N before. I'm just going to add a Shift key. Control Shift and End, and now it pulls up Chrome, but this time it pulls it up in an incognito. So whatever address, I go out to Amazon here, or I go out to the toy store or whatever, when I am done, there'll be no record of it, so my nosy kids can't figure out what they're getting for the holidays. So my kids are too old for that, but believe me, when they were younger, they could figure it out pretty good. But anyway, that's how we do that. We can open up new browser windows, Control N, and in incognito, we just add that Shift key, and it pulls it up in incognito. By the way, why are we talking about Chrome? When so much, especially at Techstar, a lot of our work relates to Microsoft, some of the advanced technologies. The answer, just so everyone knows, is Microsoft made kind of a interesting but totally logical decision that they're basically going to start supporting Chrome by default in Windows. So in future versions of Windows, Chrome will be the default browser. They're getting out of that whole Internet Explorer experience. I said that backwards. They're not totally giving up on it, but they're just modifying it to something different. It's now part of the operating system, and it does other features and functions. And for people who want to browse out to the internet, Chrome is the tool of choice, and Microsoft's now going to support that. So that's the reason why I'm demoing all this on Chrome itself. Okay, one of the first things that everyone wants when Chrome comes up, they want to go to that menu bar. Sometimes you are, and sometimes the mouse moves elsewhere, and you want to make sure you want to get right to the menu bar. If you will hold down the Control key and hit L, it'll actually move you up. So let's say I was down here working in the browser and doing stuff, and I hit Control L, you'll notice it snaps right up to my address bar. I want to type in Techstar, S-T-A-R group, which is the address of this. Now normally I could put http://techstargroup.com, but a lot of you know there's a faster way. It's called an autocomplete sequence, and if I hold down the Control key and I just hit Enter after typing a word, it'll add all that other stuff for me. So if necessary, it'll put the http:// on it. In this case, we don't need that because the way we rate our deal, it added the .com, and so instantly I pop this up. What if I wanted to pull up a new browser page or window or tab? How would I do that? And we've learned about this before, but this has pulled up my Techstar group. And on this particular case, I'm on the About box. I'm going to type ESPN just to show you. Hit Control Enter, and you'll see that it takes me out to ESPN. I could pull out some other stuff. We'll go to Amazon. We'll go to the Weather Channel. Just trying to get a bunch of stuff open. We'll pull up CNN. Places you might want to go. There we go. So now I've got a lot of different tabs open in different channels. And what I want to show you is some cool things we can use to jump in and jump out. By the way, if a page comes up and it's not looking correct, something's missing, maybe it partially loaded, etc., F5 is the universal key that we use to automatically refresh the page and force it to reload. I could go up here and I could click on the refresh button, which is right up here, but again, the idea is to do this with the keyboard, keep everything fast and quick right on side of that keyboard. And you can see today's news as I'm filming this video. This is, by the way, this was recorded on January 19th of 2020, so that's today's news. Anyway, so we can do that. We can use that autocomplete. We can refresh the page. The other thing we can do is we can actually use the zoom. Now, before I talked about, we use that control wheel, but in the browser, you can actually use the control key and use a plus or a minus. And you'll notice I'm zooming in, making it bigger, or zooming out and making it smaller. I can make it really small, moving it down to 75, 50, etc. If you ever get totally whacked out where you've now forgotten what zoom level or whatever else you need, if you'll just click Control and 0, that'll always put you back at 100%. So it's an easy way to zoom in and zoom out to any point that you want to, and then again, hit that Control and 0, and it'll take you right back to 100% zoom without you having to worry about it. Let's talk about search. Search is something we always do inside of Google Chrome. How do I get into the search capability? Well, one way, of course, would be to go up here and use my mouse and click on the little search bar here. That's a horrible way. A better way, what we want to do is using our control key, just hit F. F for find. And now I can go in here and Meghan Markle is big news right now, so I just type in Markle, and it's gone through and pulled information, and there's a lot of information on Meghan Markle and all the stuff that's going on. But that's how we can do that. Just hit that Control F, and that'll pull up that find feature automatically in your browser, and you'll be right into it. I've got a lot of tabs open across the top here, and there are some shortcut keys that allow me to quickly move to the tabs. You'll notice tab number 2 here is ESPN. And just like we did with our applications when we hit Windows 1, Windows 2, Windows 3, and it loaded App 1, App 2, and App 3 on the taskbar, in the browser we hit the control and we can do the same thing. So if I hit Control 2, it takes me to tab 2, which in this case is ESPN. And tab 3, and tab 4, and tab 1. And if you have more than 10 tabs open, basically, you also have the ability to hit Control 9, and you're not going to go to the 9th tab, you're going to go to the last tab. So let's say I had 15 tabs open, Control 9 will take me to the 15th tab, and I can work my way forward or backward. Control tab allows me to move through the tabs, just like we did before, an Alt tab in the apps, and Windows tab in Windows. In the browser, it's Control tab, and I can forward and backward move through my different applications. So that's kind of cool. Take me back to the Techstar homepage here. And then if you want to go backwards through that, as I'm hitting Control tab to move forward, how do you think I would go backward? You just add the Shift key, and now I can reverse the process. Forward and backward as you want, especially if you're someone who uses a lot of tabs. Maybe you're a stockbroker and you have a lot of tabs open to different pricing and stock information. You can use those keyboard shortcuts to keep zipping forward and backward through all of this great information. So that's a way we can navigate through the tabs. One of the other things we do in a browser is bookmarks. Bookmarks is critical in keeping information when you find it. You want to be able to come back to that information at a later time. There's a couple of key sequences. There's 3 of them I want to show you. The first one is a Control D, which is a simple way to make a bookmark. Control D, it pops up the bookmark and says, what do you want to call this? We want to call this Techstar homepage. What bar do you want to add it to, and by default it goes to the bookmarks bar, but I could make my own special bars using the bookmark manager. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm just going to say okay, and just that quick and that simple, I have bookmarked the Techstar group, which I strongly encourage you to do. We got a lot of good information out there. If you want to go further than that, I'm going to hold down the Control, the Shift, and the B key. Watch what happens here. Control, Shift, and B as in boy, and this turns on my bookmark bar. So a lot of people leave it on or leave it off. You can use a key sequence to pull this up. It's a menu now of any bookmarks that I happen to have created. So if you have a smaller screen and you don't want to eat up screen with your bookmarks always being shown, Control, Shift, and B will turn that on and turn that off at your leisure. Anytime you need it, it's there. Anytime you don't, it's gone. In addition to that, the third key sequence I wanted to is Control, Shift, and O, letter O. And when I do this, this actually pulls up the bookmark manager. This is for Google Chrome. And this allows me to create subfolders and special bookmark bars and organize them and move them and change them, and all the things you would typically do with bookmarks you can do from right inside this interface. When I'm done with it, I can just close it down and go back to my tabs, and I am perfectly fine. Okay, so 3 quick ways to go in and create a bookmark. What was the command to create a bookmark? Control D. What was the command to toggle your bookmark bar on or off? Control, Shift, and B for bookmark bar. And what's the command to go into the bookmark manager? Control, Shift, and O. Just takes practice. I know it takes a little bit of getting used to, but if you add that into your repertoire, you'll suddenly be using them all the time, and you'll be flying every time you use your browser. People often want to work on their history. So inside their browser, they want to be able to open up their browser history. It's very simple to do. If I will hold the Control key down and hit H for history, you'll see my entire Google Chrome history comes up. Now I keep saying Google Chrome, but as I mentioned, most of these keyboard commands will work in Safari or Firefox or Internet Explorer. I'm just picking Chrome since it's the most popular. But you can see here's all the different stuff that I've been looking at, different places I've been going. All inside of one simplified window. We talked before, we were talking about using incognito so the kids can't see which bottom for the holidays. We can also do the same thing, clearing our browser history so that it isn't out there for everyone to see. And the way I do that is I hold down the Control, the Shift, and the Delete, just like I was deleting a file. And when I do that, it comes up and says, are you sure you want to clear out all your browsing history? And it allows me to pick and choose what data that I want to cancel or clear out of. Excuse me, I'm going to cancel here. But I could, if I wanted to, wipe out the entire thing. Now let's say I was going around the internet and I found a cool site out on techstargroup.com. There's some awesome resources, for example, and some stuff. And I'm looking maybe at a business analytics page or whatever. I'm just kind of diving in here, some of the cool things that we have going. And I was going to bookmark this, but I forgot to. And I wasn't paying attention, and I went ahead and killed this site. And it's like, oh, I wanted to use that, and I just closed it down. I wasn't thinking. What would you do? Well, you might be tempted to go back into your history, and you know how we can go back into history, right? Control H would go in, but there certainly is my Techstar group, but I got lucky because that was the first tab I did today. What if I'd been working all day and it was the end of the day? This might be a really long list, and it might be buried deep inside that list on a particular page I was looking at. So it may not be too easy to find. This is one of my absolutely favorite tips, keyboard shortcuts, if you will. I closed a window, I moved stuff around. Here's CNN. I clicked on CNN, I was reading an article, and I just made it go away, and now I wanted that back. And I was like, oh, I wish I had that. One of the neat things you can do is if you will hold Control and Shift and the letter T. If I hit T, watch what happens. It goes and it pulls back the last page that you closed. Because it realizes sometimes we're reading stuff and without even thinking, we just close it down and boom, suddenly we're like, oh, I forgot to copy the URL or I forgot to bookmark it or whatever. Control, Shift, and T will pull it right back up. So it makes it super, super easy. And then, as we talked about, you can hold down the Alt key and you use left and right, and you can move forward and backward. Where this is different than what we did to move between the tabs. This is to move between the pages in case you were drilling down within a URL and drilling down and drilling down. Alt left, Alt right allows me to go in there. So I'm going to go to Eminem Went Too Far. And then I pull this in and I'm reading this article, and then I'm down here and there's usually some kind of crazy garbage down here. Hack your mortgage, don't want that. Things are vanishing because millennials refuse to deal, whatever. So I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. And now if I want to, I can hold down that Alt key, and using the right arrow and the left arrow, I can navigate up and down the particular chain. I guess I use lousy examples because these are actually opening up multiple pages instead of, you know, within the same iframe diving deeper and deeper. But that's what that will do, is I can hold the forward key and the backward key while holding down the Alt button. It'll allow me to go through my pages that I've been doing. Now you're seeing it's going backwards, moving me back up the chain as I had clicked down the URL path to where I was previously. So another great way to plug this in. The last thing for browsers that I want to talk about is downloads. We often connect and click downloads. A lot of times now, especially today, you'll be clicking files for downloads and then you won't realize that it's downloaded, or it was in a folder, or you know, it doesn't immediately pop up. Sometimes it's down at the bottom of the window, sometimes it's not. So the question becomes, how do I get to my download page? Control and J will simply pop up your download window. And I use this a lot as I'm pulling stuff all the time and bringing stuff into my computer. Control J pops it up and allows me to see those downloads right here and get access to them quickly and easily. Well, that's it for the browser. It's time to do a quick quiz. Make sure that we remember exactly all the keystrokes and combinations. So let's see how you do on a short little quiz on keystrokes, quick keys for our browsers.